Aye, thou hast murdered thy absentee father, but thine eyes be set on not answering for thy crimes. Clandestine be the name of thy current operation. Ouch, I think I broke a nail. Be that thy top priority right now. Divulge not thy deeds to thy disastrous siblings, especially that egregious eavesdropper Tiffany. Fortify thy heart for the forceful questioning that may follow. Gauge thy lies, make them not too gaudy or ungodly. I know not where Andor went, Bishop Ferris. Maybe he be in thy bed, Bishop Ferris. Hark, I doth proclaim a horrendous tragedy hath befallen the house of Launder. Incorrect, we have not a family name, 'tis inconsequential. Just a moment, sister, the house be yours, and thy job be Laundress. Know this, sister, I appreciate the sentiment. Perchance he fell upon his sword. Capital L Lord knows he doth enjoys falling upon swords. Let it be known, lest thou wouldst allow thy life to linger in the limbo of purgatory. Mess not with the ladies of House Launder. My dearest Lady Dementia, much has happened in the past few weeks that I have been away from thee. I apologize for the differing handwriting. I am dictating this to the local town scribe. Mine hand still aches from manual labor. Librarian, I require a book. Arthurian legends, perhaps. The Lord's son has it? He can read not. He be but 5 summers. 21 years old? God almighty. I will say not in writing exactly what transpired with the aid of my sister Andorra. I will say, however, that my father will no longer be weighing on my soul. No, allow the child to read. Could you please get me a book of saints instead? If it be only Mary's in the women's section, I will be furious. This leads me to a revelation my sister bestowed upon me. This blasphemous name, which has caused me much pain and turmoil, be not my burden to bear. Though per your influence I follow not the ways of the Vatican anymore, one of the few books available to me as inspiration for my new name be a book of saints' names, and not the saints we think of. Mary, 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 Agnes, Mary, Mary. I know there be more womanly saints than this. I was nearly lost in a sea of Marys. Capital L Lord knows we need not another Mary in this family. Until I found a name most like my own. In the margins, a nun's notes from many a year ago. Adeodata? 'Twould be a fitting name. I may still be called Addie, and it gives me the feeling of the Mediterranean. Thine estate, my new home. When I return to thee, I will no longer be Adora the Jaded, scourge of Constantinople. I shall be Adeodata, thy noble guard. With love, and to soon be met, Adeodata. It's not easy being a laundress at the Lord's castle. Just the other day I had to devise a scheme for removing blood from my sister's tunic. Thou could not have slaughtered him more demurely. I'd like to see you kill a man cleanly. Be not a matter of cleanliness, it be a matter of covertness. One man fallen into the boiling linen water does not a criminal make. Mayhaps he was a little too entranced with the latest ale. Boiling water be one thing, but it be hard to explain away 17 stab wounds. With all the unnecessary armor he wore, thou could have thrown him into the river and allowed the current to do the rest. I beg of thee to do less talking and more scrubbing. Thou art lucky I do thy laundry pro bono. Pro bono? How doth thou know Latin? I know of many words for many things that be not important right now. I may not know how to decipher the written word, but I would be not the lady of dirty laundry if I could not comprehend church gossip arriving straight from Rome. Sir Kyle, thou wouldst forgive my sister for her embarrassment and aggression. 'Tis her time to do the womanly bleeding. As far as I am concerned, there be nothing embarrassing about the monthly bleed. But think not of the discomfort men bring onto thee. Think of the discomfort thou canst inflict upon their sensibilities. And the only time blood discomforts man is if he be drowning in his own or discussing it falling from whence he came. I know not what, but something be wrong in the house of Launder. Be it the patricide, perchance? Thou canst prove that not? Mayhaps it be thy insistent yelling. We yell not, Margaret. It be thy propensity for ale that constrains thy insufficient thoughts. Fair. Wherefore art thou here again? The wives kicked me out. Again. Go forth and grovel for forgiveness then. Capital L Lord knows thou art most likely the problem. Back to the topic at hand. Other than the alleged patricide, what be the matter? I leave tomorrow for Constantinople. I can place not wherefore I feel this way. Something be dearly wrong. Addie, where be thy kohla? Tiffany, I beg of thee to increase thy lessons with thine Arabic tutor. I care not for this sense of unease. Can I not merely abstain from lining my eyes for a single day? Not that thou requires it to be beautiful, sister, but it be unsettling. Margaret! Shutting up now. Thine eyes were injured with the applicator again, were they not? Thou canst prove that not. It's not easy being a laundress in the Lord's castle. Just the other day I overheard a conversation that was most concerning. Apparently we have captured the ire of a bishop residing in a few towns over. That may happen if you allow thine Eastern Orthodox sister to visit, especially if it happens to be at the same time as thy sister with multiple wives is taking refuge in thine abode. As per usual, the church's ire is assuaged by directing it towards anything but a mirror. It be of little consequence considering only the capital L Lord has any dominion over mine actions. He definitely has not seen an ounce of those tithings or indulgences. In fact, the chaplain might wish to switch his name to Father Indulgence, patron saint of overconsumption, and if the suspicious stains upon the bishop's imported silk sheets be any indication, I need not intertwine the Lord's wrath with the clergy's threats. I am quite certain that the threats will subside with a friendly gesture. I'm sure I could find time within my day to launder the bishop's robes and lay them upon a patch of fragrant flowers. I know of a patch of blooming thistle and nettle that will suit my purposes quite well, and maybe I shall return it with a tall, refreshing glass of hemlock iced tea. It's not easy traveling from Shirefordshire to Constantinople, but I've a rendezvous with a lady most wonderful, and Constantinople be where she resides. My lady... Nikolaus, wherefore art thou here? There be a scoundrel that prowls the grounds of my lady's estate. He be likened to an insect. No matter how many times I squash him beneath my boot, he returns unwanted. What be thine excuse this time? Visiting... whom? Though my lady has a husband, we are fortunate that he be unimpressed with the feminine spirit. However, I was unaware that he has found a source of amusement. Yes, my lady, he had an excuse so inconceivably ridiculous I threw him out. What? Nikolaus lives here. In situations such as these, a cover is required to stay in proximity without raising unnecessary questions. I, as a capable warrior on par with a Varangian, do well as my lady's personal guard. Nikolaus, on the other hand, is without thumbs. How can he be the Lord's scribe? My lady, it be not funny. Your husband could be burned. And we could lose our alibi. Turns out 'twas my own preconceptions that fell short. I may have severed his thumbs as recompense for previous transgressions, but he still writes with the style and grace of a Silk Road calligrapher. Either way, Nikolaus has informed me that there be no hard feelings between us, so now I may devote all of mine attention to my lady. It's not easy being a laundress in the Lord's castle. Just the other day I was mistaken for a kitchen maid by a visiting noble. He asked me to slip some special seasoning into the Lord's dinner in exchange for some extra coin. Even if he knew of mine elevated status as the head laundress, I doubt he would comprehend the intricacies of peasant occupations. Unlucky for him, mine spidermonger sister Tiffany was visiting, and she can both read and comprehend the various shorthands utilized by apothecaries. Let's just say the only people around here who are allowed to poison anyone are myself, the small French child, and Greg whenever he manages to go a fortnight without encouraging our younger siblings toward a life of brazen crime. Notice how visiting nobles be not on that rather exclusive list. Coincidentally, that visiting noble dropped dead this morning, but I be a laundress, so I know not what has transpired. It would be ideal for nobles to remember that it be not only the ones who can read that thou must fear, it be also the ones strong enough to move the bodies, clever enough to ensure they be not found, and smart enough to keep their mouth shut. And though we understand that poison may work in a pinch, in Shirefordshire, we far prefer the boiling linen water. It's not easy asking for time off in the Lord's castle. Though I believe the junior laundresses could handle the wash water in my stead, the Lord seems to think it fit to keep me close in case mine expert laundering skills be required. Little does he know I've planned for this eventuality and have conjured up a clever scheme. I pray that thou canst imagine the persuasive power of a song composed by a passing bard containing within the lyrics the names of every lord and lady my lord has finished a jousting match with this past year. I know not how the bard found a suitable rhyme for Sir Pensilver, ninth son of the Earl of Purple, nor do I know how the court jester managed to memorize the tune as he started singing at sunrise and was yet to be halfway done by mid-afternoon. However, I do be impressed with both feats of artistic genius. Luckily, my lord understood the severity of his predicament by the 83rd verse. I now have permission to take a month's leave from Shirefordshire to visit my sister in Constantinople and the lady that be the subject of her affection, who is more than likely to be too good for my brooding sister. In return, I am allowing Junior Falconers Marie, my sister Mary, and Sir Kyle to accompany me, at least until we get to Rome. I can only hope and pray for a day when one can take their promised time away from toil and work without the need for advanced forms of threat and bribery. But until that day, our Lord Shirefordshire be promiscuous with the following lord. It's not easy leaving the Lord's castle. Pray tell, how many casks of ale doth thou require for this journey, Sir Kyle? In all of mine years residing in Shirefordshire, I have yet to leave the confines of this humble town. Unless thou wouldst count the time I journeyed across the river to visit my sister Margaret and her 3 wives in Shireford. Junior Falconers Marie, I said 1 bird and 3 spiders max for this journey. That be 2 birds and... 17 spiders. I know not how this journey will go, but so long as Sister Mary keeps her holy site prayers to a minimum and Sir Kyle keeps his mouth shut in regards to navigation, we should be in Rome by month's end. Sister Mary, thy vow of poverty be not mine. Get in the cart, we are not walking. Though Lord Shirefordshire has given me a mere month off, I have special dealings with Lady Shirefordshire regarding an indefinite extension upon my leave. So long as I acquire a perfume in Rome that's supposedly all the rage as a special surprise for her husband. I had my sister, Sister Mary, write down the name for my reference. 'Twas something to the tune of Aqua Tofana. Must be a particularly enticing blend. Sir Kay, doth thy mother, Lady Shirefordshire, know of thine absence? Well, this will be most awkward indeed. Our journey be of an indeterminate length, but I do wish to visit my sister and her lady in Constantinople after our stop in Rome for Sister Mary to gather oil dripped across saintly bones. No, Sir Kyle, I doubt thy shabby frock will be the style in Rome. I will do not thy laundry on this trip. Thou knowst the rules? Sir Kyle does his own laundry. All roads may lead to Rome, but all dirty laundry leads to myself, whether willingly or not. It be not easy having 3 wives in Shireford. This be especially true when they insist on kicking thee out of thy communal dwelling, when I be merely a calm maiden. And regardless if I enjoy the ale, or use the loom shuttles as instruments of percussive rhythms, it be not a crime to have a song in thy soul, or the sweet nectar of the fermented grain composing mine humors. I may be a seamstress, but can I have not a hobby or a scrap of enjoyment? Has not my weaver wife Penelope a set of dice to roll in her free time? Has not my spinner wife Catherine seed she feeds to the birds? Has not my shepherdess wife Dolly an altar to a pagan god in the back garden? I feel as though mine hobbies are the only ones sowing discord among the household, and it be not fair in the slightest. Perhaps I shall placate my wives with something they would enjoy. Like fine wine. It be not easy to be the only launder sister left in Shirefordshire. What with Endora and Mary gallivanting off to Rome for holy bone oil, or Tiffany off to procure more spiders. And I will speak not on Adeodata's need to date outside of her league. I have seen a portrait of her Lady Dementia, and I would not be unfaithful to my 3 wives, but I can admit when a lady be most fine. Alas, I broke into my childhood home while Endora be not here and Greg be off gallivanting somewhere, because my wives be unimpressed with the wine I presented them as reconciliation for mine apparent failing. They claim I should cut back on the ale. What, then, should I drink? Water? Ha! I drank water once from the stream adjacent to our pigsty as a small child, and I was spewing forth my meals for a fortnight straight. I trust only the ale brewed by the decrepit alewife who lives on the border of Shirefordshire and Shireford. The ale was good enough for my father and mother. Why should it be not good enough for my needs? I feel as though too much attention these days is paid to water, and I, for one, fear for the business of the good alewife. And how else would I make anything dull just the slightest? How else do I make my hands still to sew? And how else do I support an old crone while simultaneously balancing my humors? I know not wherefore this be so difficult to comprehend. It's not easy being a merchant in Roma, especially when it comes to communicating with thy family back in the countryside. Salve, my dearest sister Margaret. It has come to mine attention that our dearest sisters Endora and Mary be traveling across the continent. As such, I am of the suspicion that thou hast been left alone in Shirefordshire, pending thy semi-regular exile from thy home in Shireford. My sisters are normally quite capable of fending for themselves. They've been doing so for years without me, though it has recently been conveyed to me that my lack of attention regarding family be a teeny bit hurtful. I must say that I preemptively agree with thy wives, Penelope, Catherine, and Dolly, that thy drinking has come to a point of concern. Ooh, be that too forward? I may be 3rd eldest, but I be not exempt from the responsibility of family. It simply be easier now that I am a merchant with modest means. I will bring thee a most wonderful drink that be all the rage in Roma, called coffee. I know of thine aversion to water, and I believe this be a suitable replacement, as it be safe to drink, unlike the distilled poison that alewife cooks up. And now that I know that I have the solution to these contentious issues, I shall swoop in and save my sister's marriages. I suppose thou couldst say I am on my redemption quest. See you soon. With much love, Theophania of House Laundress, also known as thy beloved younger sister, Tiffany. P.S. Please tell Lady Shirefordshire that I will be carrying a package for her from our beloved sister, Endora. It's not easy redeeming thy character by saving thy drunken sister. I needed not thy help. Aye, and I doth suppose landing thyself in the stocks was part of thy plan. I arrived in Shirefordshire, coffee in hand, ready to save my sister Margaret from her overindulgence in alcohol, only to be met with ridicule. The least thou couldst do is thank me. For what? Last I checked, thou art always looking for an opportunity to flaunt thy wealth and success. I do not flaunt. I am merely a patron of the needy, and look, I be patronizing thee, right now. I know not wherefore Margaret refuses my help. My sisters instructed me to be more involved in the family affairs. How else will I be involved if not to solve others' problems? See, this be the issue. Thy ego be convinced that thou canst solve every problem just by throwing thy wealth at it. Hey, I come bearing solutions, and my wealth be merely a means to an end. Hopefully the end of this discussion. To be fair, I may have pushed the conversation a teeny bit too far. So what am I supposed to do? Watch thee become like our mother, wallowing in despair when help be so near? This be the problem with thee, Tiffany. Thy tongue be faster than thine empathy. And be thine indifference to thy wife's feelings acceptable collateral damage? At least I didn't poison my spouse to steal their business. But I do wish she'd have left my late husband out of the discussion. It's not easy visiting thy sister and her lady in Constantinople. Epino, Lady Dementia. Thy Greek needs some work, much like thine attitude. This be my first time so far away from home, but I came seeking answers to a question that plagued my thoughts. I may be uninterested in romantic pursuits of any kind, but I know a lady most fair when I see one, and I know not how my sister Adeodata managed to impress a woman of such effortless perfection as Lady Dementia. How did thou manage to navigate the city if you don't speak Greek? Sir Kyle acted as a translator, the same Sir Kyle who attempted to flirt with the tapestry for 1 hour before realizing 'twas not a real person. Doth thou know another? After he discerned the location of Lady Dementia's estate, I sent Sir Kyle off to find a present for his mother. That man may be a few ingredients short of a stew, but I doth admire a man who respects his mother. And where be our Sister Mary? After she gathered her holy bone oil from a relic in Rome, she decided to make the journey home with the small French child. The same one who trained a flock of falcons to carry her up into the rafters of church so that she may make scary sounds during mass and frighten the chaplain. Doth thou know another? As a devout follower of the ways of the Vatican, Sister Mary is uncomfortable stepping within the confines of Constantinople. Though between you and me, I feel as though she sensed something is rotten in the state of Shirefordshire. I am sure everything be sufficiently handled. How doth thou know what be in my best interest? That be mine opinion. I appeal to the saints that they will sit in quiet contemplation and discussion until ye find common ground. Oh, pray tell. It be not the fucking time to test me, Margaret. I must congratulate thee, Margaret. Thou art one of the few souls that can compel a nun to speak blasphemy. That be rich coming from the lips of a black widow. Be it that difficult to believe my husband perished under natural circumstances. Aye, because the former be in thy nature, Tiffany. Thou hast always been a schemer. Thine ambition eclipses the will of others until it compels thee to meddle where thou art unwelcome. Fine, thou wouldst twist mine ambitions into malevolence, then I suppose I be free to do the same. If thou art so noble and refined, why did ye move but an hour's walk away and leave our beloved sister in Shirefordshire alone to deal with our youngest sisters? What, she had Greg? Kid thyself not, Margaret. Greg was a farmer with no land to farm, and a thief in a land with no gold to steal. What was he supposed to contribute? And though I loathe to admit it, thy sewing skills be second to none. Wherefore, then, when Endora was working to apprentice the younger siblings, did she not send one to thee? Could it be thou art untrustworthy when thou art caught in a drunken stupor? We all know I be the family screw-up. I congratulate thee for finally being up to date on the family lore. Cease acting like you care about this family when you insist on tearing us apart with worry at your antics. Doth thou know how many letters thy wives have sent regarding thy drinking? Thou hast the blessing of 3 people who love thee so much they would risk condemnation for the privilege of calling thee wife. Act like it. Do not put them through the pain and agony I suffer every day knowing that a piece of my heart lay buried never to return to this, the domain of mortals. Tiffany, Hold thy tongue. I cannot take the sound of thy voice much longer. In fact, I think I'd rather just sit in silence until Sister Mary regains her senses and releases us. It be not easy admitting when thou art at fault. Tiffany, may I speak? Depends. Art thou inebriated? I suppose 'twas deserved. Nay, I am without drink at the moment. I shall not burden Tiffany with excuses. She does not deserve the burden of mine insecurities. I feel as though my biting words towards thy marital status were uncalled for. Biting may be too generous of a description. Thou art a gnat when compared to Roman gossip. Regardless of the size of a bite, the wound still bleeds, and I'm sorry to be the cause of that in any capacity. Who art thou, and what hast thou done with my sister Margaret? I be the eldest child. And 'twas easy enough at first, but then Mary was born, then Tiffany, then Adeodata, then Andorra, and Greg, and by the time Mother was ready for the final 6 children, I was overwhelmed. What I mean to say is, I need a drink. Never mind, thou art my sister Margaret. Nay. I mean, I'd like to sample this new drink thou hast brought for me to try, though thou canst be a bit much at times. I should have never assumed ill intent on thy part. In the gap between Greg and Abigail's births, our father sadly perished from a goat stampede. Our other father went gallivanting across the continent, and our mother acquired an affinity for wine. Let's just say we all snap eventually, and I be counted among the we. This drink be quite good. What is it called again? It's called coffee. Marvelous. In hindsight, I should have been better. And I probably owe an apology to Andorra and the younger sisters too, but baby steps. And Margaret? I'm sorry too, for assuming you were the root of the family drama. I suppose at the end of it all, we're all a little bit out of sorts, but hey, at least we got something accomplished while the laundress herself was on vacation. This be the only souvenir I wish for. It's not easy helping thy sister apologize to her 3 wives. My dearest wives, Penelope, Catherine, and Dolly. Now, be they thy wives, or are ye all each other's wives? Let us simply say I be unessential to the equation. I am most proud of my sister Margaret for acknowledging her issues with alcohol-induced debauchery, and I endeavor to help her repair her relationships. I apologize for my behavior. I was gripped in the clutches of sin. Nay, I care not what the clergy says, do not blame thy sins for thy lack of accountability. I can blame only mine own lack of inhibitions. I believe not the notion that Margaret or her ample list of sins be wholly responsible for her illness. However, that excludes her not from saying her due apologies. And make sure you reiterate all of the reasons you love each of thy wives. Thou art surprisingly good at this whole love thing. And wherefore be that a surprise? Well, when we were but children, I remember thy proclamation of solitude. You told me once that you were not capable of love, romantically at least, so I assumed that true. As a consequence of her newfound clarity, Margaret has become extraordinarily insightful. I once thought that myself. Alas, I have found that I am merely drawn to love more slowly than others. A slow sink to the bottom of a pond, as opposed to hastily and ill-advisedly diving straight off a cliff face into the unforgiving sea. Well, that be one way to phrase it. I do wish there were a more concise word. Mayhaps someday. Athos Tesaro was my late husband. He was a fabric merchant from Venice. His Guildhall was unfortunately situated next to a glass studio. You know how those burn up and take all with it. Fire be a most terrible natural cause to die of. I was smart to relocate the business to Roma. Well, I apologize for assuming you killed thy husband. Nay, I be sorry as well. Sorry I didn't use my words and talk about what I was feeling. I know not wherefore I expected thee to speak frankly when I could not. I anticipate not the correct conditions for myself to acquire another husband. But if the next one does fall at my hand, Margaret will be the first to know.